Today, we're going to talk to Phylecia Jones about how she helps people and business owners take control of their money. Welcome to Richer Soul, your journey to a more purposeful, intentional, amazing life. Where are you going to go and how are you going to get there? Let's figure that out together. At the core is the financial well-being to be able to do what you want, when you want, how you want. It's about personal freedom and abundance. Remember to visit the website, richersoul.com. Sign up for the email list. I don't send out many emails, but if there's something important or some bonus material, it's the best way to find out. Also, I plan on releasing an ebook later this year. If you're on the email list, you will get it for free. Are you creating the life you deserve? Today, we're going to talk to Phylecia and learn exactly how she learned to take control of her money and how she now helps people and small businesses focus on taking control of their money. Welcome to Richer Soul, Phylecia. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me, Rocky. I'm so excited to be here and to chat with you.
And I'm excited to have you here. So what we like to do usually is to kind of start at the beginning and find out how people learned about money growing up. And so I'd love to hear your story and how you learned about using money to become financially savvy.
That is so interesting to me because I never realized I had a money story until maybe a few years ago when I started into my business and I had to be challenged by it. But when I go back to the beginning, I realized that I didn't learn a lot about money. I knew basics. You make some money, you put it in the bank, and you have a checking account. I was like very old school. People don't write checks anymore. And that's all I learned. I think what I saw modeled by my parents was when you have money, you spend money. If I really had to put some words around it, that's how I grew up with money. Every time money came in, it was meant to be spent. When I got my first job, that's what I did with my money. I spent it. Of course, I saved some, but saving to me was to eventually spend it later. That is how I grew up with money. No one really talked about it. No one talked about finances or teaching you how to really manage your finances. You just kind of saw what was coming in. And we didn't have that type of family where talking about money was rude. It just never came up. You just never discussed it at all. That's kind of how I started off with money.
There's a lot of people in that situation. For whatever reason, we find talking about money as an issue in the country. Unfortunately, if your parents don't teach you, most schools in the past didn't teach you, and I hear more and more that more schools are getting involved, although I'm not sure if they're teaching you how to use money or just the basics of running a checking account and what it means to be in debt and what it means to borrow money or to buy stocks. Hopefully, it will continue to change. In the meantime, we'll just keep educating people in this format.
I hope it does change because they did teach money when I was in school, but it was very basic. Of course, it was you have a job, you have this much money, here's how much your bills pay, how much your bills that you need to pay, and then how to invest. It was so basic. I do remember all of the classes, but it doesn't really prepare you for when you're out there and you have so much stimulation of people wanting you to buy things, this desire to have a certain lifestyle, but also either the money that's coming in or lack of it. They really don't teach you about how to navigate all of those pitfalls that you can fall into when it comes to money. And I'm so glad that there are more people like you. And of course, I have a podcast and talk about budgeting as well. But I'm hoping that, we can make some huge changes for the rest of the country to really pay attention to their finances.
Absolutely. And it's good that you at least learned some of the basics about money in school. That is one of the things that has changed, though, over the years, is the amount of marketing that is done. When I grew up, originally, we only had a handful of TV channels. Now you've got a million channels of entertainment and iPhones. Everywhere and everything you look at, you are being marketed to and pushed more and more to feel bad. So you will spend more money to feel good.
There's tons of marketing out there. And it is so hard, especially when you're younger and especially when you're an adult, when you want a better life and it appears that other people have a better life. It'll be easy to market to you to try to buy that better life. And I always talk to people, I call it, you cannot buy your way to success. If you really want it, you got to work for it. What we're doing nowadays is just trying to buy our way to success and to these lifestyles that we think we want. It's very interesting what the next few years will bring to us as far as marketing and how much it will constantly keep seeping into our lives it's like an hourly basis now.
Well, I think, though, there are many people now talking about a counter message to say you don't need all of that in order to have a happy life.
Exactly.
And I think finally psychology is catching up. We're understanding why we as humans do what we do with money, and more research is coming out to help us to better handle our emotions and our relationships with money.
I look forward to it. I love the counter messages. They're fun to listen to because I know the truth and you know the truth behind them, that you don't need a lot of stuff to make your life great or make yourself happy.
No, you don't. As a matter of fact, the opposite happens. I know for us, we have accumulated a bunch of stuff over the years, and literally now I pay people to get rid of my stuff. Like, take it out of my house. I don't want it no more. And actually, after coming back from Italy, that was one of the checklist items. Like, all right, we got to get rid of some more stuff. Let's simplify life even more. And it's not to say you can't have nice things. We do have nice things. But an abundance of nice things creates things that clutter up your house. And so that's what we'd like to get rid of, is more of that clutter.
Oh, cool. I'm excited to hear that because, you start to feel a little bit better when some of that clutter is out of your life. I'm on the opposite side. I know so many people that try to give us stuff, my husband and I. I don't want to be rude, but I have to tell them, like, please do not give me any more stuff. We have enough stuff. Please give it to someone else that needs it. I'm kind of blocking stuff coming into the house these days.
That's a perfect way to do it. I think at this point, we don't shop very much anymore. Unless I know I need something, I'm not going to go to the store to just look around and be entertained, because every time I do walk into Costco, I have this urgent need for a new 80-inch TV that I will never watch. It's funny how that happens.
Yeah, just stay out of Costco then. Easy.
Well, but that's where we get all our food, because they have delicious food and free food at all the samples.
Oh, so you go for the samples. See, just go for the samples. They should just have like little sample punch cards and just kind of give you a list. My husband and I, we don't shop at Costco because it was too much stuff for me. It was too overwhelming going in there. So I just stay out of it as much as possible.
We're probably in there once a week buying groceries or dinner or something. And even their food court. So if you don't get enough samples, the food court's super inexpensive. You get a great meal for next to nothing. You can't beat that.
That's a good way to eat on a budget. I love it.
For us, it was nice because when the kids were younger, it forced them to try different things.
Never thought of it that way.
And so they'd get a taste of different foods, and you weren't sure if they'd like something. And this way, it's kind of, they're like willing to go try it because it's, kind of an adventure. And where they wouldn't do it at home, they would do it there. And you also get to see what's good and what's bad. And you just have to learn to say, no, I'm not buying that today. I'll buy it when I'm ready for it.
Yeah. I love hearing this. This is so much fun.
So you started off in life not being so good with money, though.
I will say I was probably decent with money. If I go back to my high school days when I did have a job, I was pretty decent with it, meaning if I had it, I probably spent it and had a little bit of savings. There was nothing crazy about what I was doing with money, but it probably did start this trend So when I did go to college, that's when things kind of started going haywire, because in college, they have this wonderful thing that they do is that they give you credit card applications. And it's just like, wow, you're going to give me free money? That's where some of the trouble started, was with the credit card applications in college. And you're thinking, yeah, I can easily pay this off, $20 a month. That's not a problem. But you realize you don't have a job in college. Eventually, I did get a job, but I wasn't working because I was trying to focus on school. And I was also in the marching band. So that's how I paid for college. So I didn't have a lot of time to go get a job. But I noticed now that that was where a lot of it started, with those credit cards. And eventually, when I did get my job out of college, credit cards were another thing that I call it the credit card game. I was just rolling things onto different credit cards, paying it down a little bit, charging it back up, and just kind of always in this cycle with multiple credit cards, trying to afford a life that I probably really couldn't afford at that time.
That's what happens. It's not one big event that puts you in trouble. It's all these little events. I know when I look at my credit card bills, a lot of our spending is 2-digit spending, 20, 30, 50, 60, $80.
Yes.
And then at the end of the month, I have a $5,000 bill.
It adds up really. I tell people those little nickels and dimes, that $10 here and there, they add up so fast before you even know it.
They very much do. The other thing is, swiping a credit card does not have the same emotional attachment as peeling off $100 bills to hand to somebody.
No.
You have a very different reaction when you've got to pull $300 bills out and hand them to the cashier versus just swipe the card and somehow, somewhere it goes away.
It'll magically appear. There is so much truth to that. A couple of years ago, we decided to go on an all cash diet. We did it for 3 months, and I would take our budget, take all the money that we needed, and I would go to the bank and get out cash. I got it all in 20s. So it was like a big stack of cash. I was like, oh, this is kind of fun walking out with this much money. But there is something that turns your mind around, is that you don't want to give away your dollars. It was so interesting when we did go to all cash, we didn't spend as much. Even going to the grocery store, we were on a list. We just made sure that we just didn't give away all the money. But with a credit card, especially nowadays, we have so many credit cards that give you so many points and miles and all these other little perks. It's so easy. It's so easy just to, here's my card, swipe it or chip it. You know, what we do now, you don't even think about it until a month later when you look at your credit card statement and it's like, oh, I have no idea. What did I spend this month that is $5,000? So it adds up really, really fast.
It does. And then they send you little notices saying, oh, you deserve to have a great life, and you have $1,000 available on your card to do that.
You know, the credit card companies, they are a lot smarter than us. And I know a lot of us try to play the little miles game and the points game. But I did watch a documentary. I don't remember the name of it, but it was just behind the people who created the payment plans and why they do them a certain way. And I just want to let everybody know they are smarter than us. Even though you think you're smart, they're smarter than us and they know what they're doing. So you have to kind of be careful with credit cards.
Absolutely. And then if you don't have the ability to control yourself, then maybe it's better to work on cash or work on a debit card and cash.
Yes. And
have it immediately hit your checking account so you know where you're at that given point in time. So it makes it a little bit easier.
It makes it a whole lot easier. And this is from somebody who was addicted to credit cards because they were my poison and I used them a lot. And I realized I did not know how to behave with credit cards because they were just too easy to buy things. So yeah, this is from someone who learned a lot about credit cards, and I behave a whole lot better now. I don't run balances month to month. We pay off everything each month and we keep it simple, really, really simple for how we manage our money now.
So how bad did it get with the credit card debt?
So with the credit card debt, I will say it wasn't, there are people who have more debt than I do, but at the most, it was about $8,000. Now, I know some people might be saying that, well, that's not a lot, but when you don't have any money, $8,000 is a lot. And it's stressful when you have that debt of $8,000 and then you're rolling it month to month. And then there are other things that are happening. You know, I had the issue, when the car has to get fixed, it goes on a credit card. I had a leak in my ceiling one time. It goes on a credit card. So I call it the rolling 8,000. It was the 8,000 I could just never get rid of, because even when I felt like I was trying to get rid of it, it just went right back up again. So it was just the constant use of credit cards, and it was the debt. I came out of school with not a lot of student loan debt, so that wasn't something I had to really stress about. But that rolling 8,000 that never seemed to go away, it was just annoying and frustrating for so many years. And then I had to realize that it was me. I had to fix me with how I was spending money and look at my lifestyle and make some big drastic changes.
So was there a turning point? Did something happen that caused you to change?
The waterfall. I call it my waterfall moment. I was at dinner with my boyfriend, who's my husband now, and he looks up at the ceiling and he just says, "What's that?" So I look up and there is a huge bubble, a huge water bubble. And for all of the homeowners out there, for all of you who are listening, whenever there's water inside of the house, you just panic. And I remember looking at it, and I looked up, and then I went right back to eating, because I knew in that moment I did not have any money to pay for it. I was living a lifestyle. That's the other thing. I was living a lifestyle. I had a car payment, $600 a month. I had just purchased a condo in Southern California right when the market was crashing. So, of course, I thought everything was great because I was making so much money working for the Navy at that time. And I didn't realize I was living paycheck to paycheck, but that waterfall, my waterfall moment, it just changed everything in me, because I knew when I saw that water damage, I knew I couldn't fix it. I knew I didn't have any money for it. And I knew it was going to be a struggle to make a change. And at that exact moment, I said, I will never find myself in this situation again. I will never live paycheck to paycheck again. I will never have this credit card debt. I just decided not to do all of these crazy things that I was doing with money. And that was it for me. That was my moment when I saw the waterfall in my ceiling.
And sometimes we need to have that event or something happen in our lives to shift our mindsets and change the way we look at things. So you have this waterfall moment, and then what happened?
Things got worse after that, actually. Eventually found someone to come and look at the leak, and it was a leak from my second floor down into the first floor. Every time I would take a shower, the water would leak out of the tub for some reason. At the same time, my car had to go into the shop, and everyone knows this story. You take your car for an oil change, and next thing you know, it's $1,500 of extra things that need to happen. So that happened all in that same week. And of course, I was stressed out. I was in a home that had just been devalued, because I had gone, remember the market crash? I had gone into a condo, paid $343,000 for it. And it was a condo conversion, and I couldn't refinance down into a lower interest rate. So it was just, it seems like when you hit the bottom, everything seems to pile up on it. So what I did, I decided to make some big drastic changes. I decided to pull money out of my 401k, which I know is a big no-no. I paid off all of the debt. I also cleared out all of my bank accounts for what money I did have in savings, and I paid off everything. I took a job in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, just a little bit of background. I worked for a research lab for the Navy in San Diego, and they had these opportunities where you can jump onto a project anywhere in the world, and you just go for a temporary amount of time and then come back home. So that's what I did. I took a side project in Omaha where I was on the road. Oh gosh, every 2 weeks I was on an airplane. I worked with my real estate agent, and we put my condo up for a short sale. I say I went slightly homeless. I wasn't completely homeless, but I was slightly homeless when I came back to San Diego when I wasn't working. So I had to move into my boyfriend's place, and I had to ask him if I could move in. But before that, I moved my cat in with him. I had to pay kitty rent for her. With that, I did a short sale, got out of my house. I was on the road, staying in hotels back and forth between San Diego and Omaha. All of my stuff went into storage, cleared out all of the bank accounts, took money out of the 401k. I paid off everything. And of course, while I was on this journey, I had to repay back my 401k. I just said, never again. I was done. It's so interesting that you're asking about this because I had to do a talk last night and someone was said, well, what did you do? What switched in you? I said, I honestly cannot give you what this feeling is like. Just something in me clicked that said, I am done. We all know all these steps of getting out of debt and how to be better with money. But at that moment and that time period, I said, never, ever again will I find myself in this type of financial situation, especially for someone who was making over $100,000 a year. It was embarrassing and it didn't feel good. So that's what I did to clean everything up. And trust me, I cleaned up a lot of stuff in that time period.
How long did the whole process take to get, well, let's just call it even?
Oh, wow. So I was on that project for, you got me thinking back to dates now. I feel like I'm feeling old right now. I was on that project for a year and a half. When I started that project, that's when I started getting out of all of the financial issues. Because the other thing, working for the government, you get per diem when you are traveling. I knew I would be getting extra cash on top of my paycheck for being on the road. I would take a little bit of that and just start paying off the credit cards, paying off the car, paying to get out of the condo and paying back my 401k. It took about a year and a half, almost 2 years. That was kind of a brute force method of getting out of that situation.
Congratulations for doing the hard work and for realizing that change has to occur and making that change.
Oh, thank you. I tell everybody, just have a waterfall on your dining room table. That will bring about a lot of change really fast.
People don't think about the consequences of the future. So we make a decision in the moment for how it feels in the moment without thinking about the consequences of that. Until we face those consequences and realize that we're creating pain instead of pleasure in the moment, we're probably not going to make that change.
Yeah, you are so absolutely right. You just need something that will just force you to wake up and just make a difference in how you're managing your money or with your life. This is a life lesson as well. That's what it took for me, the waterfall moment, to really say never again. It took about a year and a half to 2 years to kind of get even. And then, of course, it took quite a few years after that to even start building back up again, or building what I never really had in the first place, to be honest.
It does. That's the thing. People realize it takes time to build wealth. Takes time. There's very few people who have overnight success unless you happen to win the lottery, which is 1 out of 500 million chances or whatever the number is. And even when you do,
that doesn't go very well.
It doesn't go very well because you don't have the habits for being wealthy. You have to create the habits, live them, and it has to become you. And when you do that, that happens. Did you have any help during this period, or did you read books, or how were you able to make those changes? Was there some outside resources?
There weren't any outside resources, and I wish I had the podcast. I wish there were people like you, and I know we're both members of FinCon. I wish there were people like this when I was going through it. What I did was I was a big fan of Rick Edelman. I read his book, and it was The Truth About Money. So that's how I learned mainly about the investing. Listened to tons of Dave Ramsey. I was a pretty boring person. So if you ever did a 9-hour road trip with me, at least 5 hours of that was listening to Dave Ramsey, and 3 hours was Rick Edelman. So that's all I listened to for 2 years straight, and reading those books, listening to those radio shows in the car. I would sneak out at lunchtime and turn the car on and listen to them while I would eat. And that was it. And I really felt like I couldn't get any help because it was so embarrassing to actually say, I needed help. And when I really look back, I have a degree in computer science. I have a master's degree in systems engineering. I was a research scientist for the Navy. So you would assume that I would know how to manage my money. And I was getting paid a lot, but I felt like I was in the situation where I couldn't actually reach out for help. And when I did reach out for help, and unfortunately I went to some of the wrong people, I got sold into things that I really didn't need. I went to get help from an insurance agent who I thought was a financial advisor, and that didn't go very well at all. So it was a long journey of learning a lot of things and making some not so smart decisions. But now I'm on the other side. So now I really do tell people what to look out for. And with having so many resources these days, I'm so excited about telling anybody about any resource that will help them to reach out and get help, because I know it sounds silly to say that, we're too scared to ask for help, especially when it comes to money, but there are people out there that want to help, and we need to really tap into them and ask for it when we need it.
Absolutely. And you need to get over the fear of saying, you need to address your fears. And that's the reality of it. And if you can address your fears and realize what's the worst that happens if you start having money conversations, it's not going to change anything much, and you have the ability to grow and learn. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the financial space are more focused on selling their products and for them to make money and not for you to make money. And so you need to be very careful and truly understand what it is you're getting involved with and why. And that's one of the things with insurance products. They're long-term contracts. You sign one of those and you start getting into sinking costs very quickly.
Yes.
That happens. And so you should understand what you're doing, what's the purpose and intent of it. And so from that standpoint, insurance is to insure against something bad happening. It's very rarely an investment. And for the type of people that it's an investment for, you're probably very wealthy anyway, and you need certain types of shelters to go through. But for the average person who doesn't have wealth, insurance is never going to make you wealthy. It will make your spouse wealthy if you die, but it's not going to make you wealthy.
No, it won't. And that's what I learned over those years of all of these decisions and mistakes. You just learn really quickly about what's good, what's bad. And this was just me wanting to learn more so that I would never end up in this situation again. And the other thing that really drove me, and this is the unfortunate part, I worked with some people at my job, and there were one too many suicides that I had heard about, and with a couple of coworkers and who were having financial issues. And it made me so upset that they felt like they couldn't go and talk to someone about their financial issues. And that's why I started doing what I'm doing. And to tell more of my story, it's not as extreme as some other stories, but just hoping that, even this conversation will help people realize that all you have to do is just reach out and get help, because going the extreme method of suicide and extreme and damaging yourself is not worth it when it comes to money. It really is only money. And I wish we would learn that. It's just dollars and cents. That's it.
It is. And it's a lot easier to say that when you have lots of it.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot. It is a lot easier. I know I'm on the other side, but just ask for help. That's all I want you to do. Ask for help. Absolutely.
So I know, because I like to talk about being intentional and purposeful. And I know that you're married now, and you spent a lot of time talking to your husband-to-be before you got married, didn't you?
Yes, because we talk a lot. Yes.
So what was that like?
Talking about money. Now, we didn't talk a lot about money before we got married. By the time we got engaged, we did go to pre-marriage counseling, and we kind of started establishing some rules around the marriage. I know it sounds weird, but when we went into pre-marriage counseling, one of my goals coming out of it, and plus all the other things you learn about getting into marriage, was I wanted to make sure that finances would not be an issue. Out of all the things that we have issues with, and, laundry is one of them with us, I wanted to make sure that money was never the issue with us. Both of us made way too much money to have problems. So we made sure that we had open dialogue about the finances and about communicating the finances from the beginning. So before, while we were dating, we didn't really get too much into the financial talk. We talked a little bit, but after we got engaged, we went through pre-marriage counseling. That was one of my goals, was to make sure that money would not be an issue between us at all.
And it sounds like it hasn't been since then. Is that the case?
Money has not been an issue, unless he just wants to go buy a boat or something crazy like that. But no, money has not been an issue between us at all. And I'm glad to say it. The way we set things up is that at the end of each month, now I am the money manager, which is the crazy part. He's a saver and I'm the spender. So it's the spender who had to behave. So I actually manage the money. But each month we sit down and we go through the numbers. I tell him what we have, what we don't have, what's going on. He has access to my accounts. I have access to his accounts. So our money talk is very out in the open. I run a business, so I actually tell him what's going on with the finances of the business as well. So we haven't had any issues about money other than, buying too many toys for our dog, things like that kind of stuff.
Is there a boat in the future?
There is a boat in the future. So a year ago, some years, ever since I've known him, he has been on this kick about sailing. And I don't know where it came from, or if he never was a sailor growing up, but he has really wanted to do this. So we took sailing lessons last year. So both of us, we are 100 hours in to a 300-hour series that you need to be yacht captains. So if we finish, we just need open water. Now, granted, we live in Colorado, so there isn't an ocean here. So we have that one small issue. But the goal is in 10 years, we've had to kind of extend this out quite a bit, but in 10 years to set things up so that we can buy a boat and we can sail the Caribbean. That's the plan.
That sounds like a wonderful abundance plan.
It's fun. And sailing, I never knew, I didn't think I would like sailing because I'd never really been on a boat like that. So I was quite surprised how much I enjoyed the sailing and how peaceful and how quiet it was being out on the ocean.
And you don't get cell signal, so you can't look at your iPhone.
No, you can't. So you just it's just you, yourself, and of course with us, we had a bottle of rum, so it was great.
It sounds like a wonderful time.
Yeah.
So now that you've learned all these lessons, you're giving back through your company, which is Budget School.
Yes.
And I have to say, for me, budgets are like diets. They suck. unless of course you have a diet that you love. And I have a diet that I love. I can eat bacon and ice cream and lose weight. So it's cool.
You are a unicorn if you can do that.
If you time it correctly and you work out correctly, it's possible. You just have to be very good the rest of the time and eat in certain ways. And it actually works. And because it's enjoyable, I can stick to it. I don't have to, it's not a struggle. It's not like, oh, I have a diet. Oh, it's baking day.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you found people taking to budgets? Because I would think most people would give you the death stare.
A lot of people do give me the death stare. And within a year, they call me and realizing that they need help with their budget. So I created Budget School, and is very blatant. And it talks a lot about budgeting, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And I try to add in a little fun, make it a little bit more colorful. And I tell people a budget is not a restriction. Yes, we have been taught that budgeting is restricting us from things that we want to do, from the fun. But because I really aim my business at coaches, consultants, and solopreneurs, I tell them that your budget is your opportunity to the life that you really want. If you want to be a success in your business, you have to have a budget. You have to give yourself a salary, and you have to stay on top of your numbers. It's the same with personal finances. If you want to be wealthy, you have to stay on top of these numbers. And the budget, I like to do allocation budgeting. So it's an easier way for me to budget, but I tell people it doesn't matter. Figure out what works for you, because no matter what, the budget for me represents being on top of your numbers on a monthly, weekly basis, so that you'll know where you're going and you can set your goals to them. So it works in personal life and it works in business life as well.
And I think that was one of the biggest ahas for me. I just always assumed that people who were in business understood business and knew their numbers. And I've learned over the years that most business people have no clue what their numbers are and how their businesses are working. And I get it now, because that's what, we help people who are in business to understand their numbers. People are they're artists in a sense that they create stuff and that's what they love. Their creations might be a restaurant type of doing it, or they might be in some other type of business. And their passion is the business, is what they do in the business. Their passion isn't keeping track of the money in the business. And unfortunately, that's probably why most businesses go broke or fail over the long term, is because they never focused on their numbers. And if you run a business, or you've got a side business, or even in your personal financial life, you've got to sit down and you have to understand your cash flows. You have to understand where you want your money to flow. And, if you want to use a budget to do that, that's fine. And you need to look and see what your balance sheet looks like, because there's no purpose in being in business if you're just going to lose money. And unfortunately, I think the same thing happens to people in businesses and personal life. They don't focus on their numbers. And if you don't focus on something, you're not going to achieve results in it.
Amen. Everyone who's listening right now, Rocky is preaching to you. So he knows what he's talking about. I agree with everything you say. And the goal is for me and for you and shows like this is to make people realize you have to make money a priority, especially if you want to build wealth. If you want to be successful in your business, it has to be a priority. And there are a lot of business owners who are out there just getting by day to day. And we know the stats of, you can go to the Small Business Administration and they tell us that 80% of businesses won't even last the first 18 months. And mainly is due to financial mismanagement. And the list just gets shorter and shorter for businesses that can last 3 years and those that last 5 years. So if you know of businesses, and we've all seen the business where there's a restaurant that starts off and in 2 years is shut down and you don't even see the people anymore. And 9 times out of 10 is because of financial management, because we are so focused on what we want in business and in personal life. We're focused on the output. We want everything to look pretty, everything to look great, but we are ignoring those numbers in the background. And those numbers are the key to everything we do. Now, a lot of people don't want to focus on it because they feel as if they focus on the numbers, they are too salesy and they're going to feel bad about themselves, because we've all been taught that this money is evil. So a lot of people just choose to ignore. But for personal life, for building wealth, for building a successful business, money is absolutely a priority. Staying on top of your numbers, understanding your budget, having a budget is the one thing that's going to make you outlast a lot of the people that are there right now.
So how have you been successful in getting people to focus on their numbers?
So what I do, and I know we're switching over to the business side. So what I do is that I actually go out and speak. I do a lot of speaking, and I launched my podcast, the Budget School Podcast. And I realized that for us in this money game, we have to keep talking to people. We have to keep talking. The Dave Ramsey's, he's been on the radio, I think almost like 20 something years now. I may be some years off, but he says the same thing every day. He gives you the same tips every day. He gives you almost the same story every day. But sometimes it takes 2 years, 3 years for somebody to realize that he's talking to them. So I have been fortunate enough to be able to go out and speak and really get in front of different audiences. And I have quite a few people that kind of follow me around and hear me speak once or twice. And it'll be that fifth time where they realize, oh, you're talking to me about my money. Like, yeah, I am. And it's been a beautiful thing with the podcast. And also I incorporated live streaming where I just make sure that I am available for anyone that has questions, because my goal is to literally change this world one budget at a time. So I figure the more I talk, the more people will listen, and the more people will realize that it's time for them to make some big changes with their money. So that's what I do to get out in front of people to help them pay attention when it comes to their finances.
And what do you find are the biggest issues that you see people having?
People always say, I'm not good with numbers. I'm not good at math. I don't like doing budgets. And that comes down to having a negative money mindset. Now, a lot of us don't realize it, but we do have money mindsets. And it all goes back to how we grew up, how we saw money in the environment that was around us, and these stories from other people, because a lot of people tell themselves these stories, about only good people are poor, rich people are bad, having money is evil. And we take those into business and we have these goals saying we want to hit millionaire status, but we have this money mindset that is always getting in the way. So the biggest thing I am seeing is the money mindset. And it's your money mindset when it comes to having abundance in your life. But I also tell people your money mindset gets in the way from you properly managing your finances. So I try to tackle the money mindset so that we can get to the point of managing the money, because no matter what, the money won't go away. It really won't. We live in an economy and society where pretty much, unfortunately, money does drive quite a few things, and it's going to be a part of our lives, whether we like it or not.
That it is. And I think when you have a person who has that dichotomy and belief, oh, I want to be a millionaire, but being rich is evil, you're unconsciously undermining your success.
Exactly.
And you're constantly doing that. And you have to literally change that subconscious belief, or you will consistently have that issue. And that occurs in more than just money beliefs. It occurs in all of our beliefs about whatever the topic may be, whether it's, getting healthy or our job or relationships as well.
Exactly. You're spot on.
And so fixing those underlying mindsets and getting them in line with what we want in our life is a big piece of that pie. And I think for a lot of people, that's the elephant in the room. They don't see it always. Have you noticed that with any of your clients?
Yes, a lot of people don't see that they have these, I call them the little money mindset demons on your shoulders. A lot of people don't see it, and it does take a while for them to pay attention and realize that, oh my gosh, maybe I do have a few issues. And even with money mindset and mindset around their business, it is quite amazing to work with people like that and kind of throw the numbers back at them so that they can see what they're doing. Now, my background is in engineering and computer science. So what I do is I do the math for them. I love to do formulas. I love to make people write everything out on paper. I go very old school. The way I try to get people fired up and to see what's going on in their business is to make them write it down. I actually avoid spreadsheets. I actually get people and we put sticky notes on the wall, and I start getting them to list everything that they're spending money on. That is so powerful to visually see this, that a lot of people will instantly make some big changes in what they're doing with their money.
All right. So you're using visual feedback to help them do that.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, they don't realize, just like we talked about earlier with the credit cards, where the money is going, how big of a piece of that it is. They need to focus on that. And I think that's true, though. If you run a business and you're not paying attention to your numbers, not only do you not have money, but then you probably end up paying way too much in taxes because you don't have appropriate deductions. it kind of cascades into a much larger problem over time. That's the other thing I'm always surprised about. And, you know, the small business guy forgets that he has to pay the taxes every quarter and forgets he has to pay the, you know, the employee contributions for FICA and all these other things. Mm-hmm. And since they don't sit down and look at their cash flow going forward, they go off and spend money that they owe to the IRS. The IRS doesn't forget.
No, they don't. And the IRS is the least of some of the problems that they have. That's the big legal issue you have. But I have worked with one of my clients, was phenomenal in their business. They brought in $130,000 in the first quarter and managed to spend every last dime of it in the first quarter. It was a little bit of not paying the previous year's taxes, not paying the future year's quarterly taxes, purchasing a car, using the business finances, going out on dates. It was all kinds of craziness going on. It was so hard to get them to focus and for me to say, you cannot keep doing this. Now, they didn't like anything I said. Their goal was, they told me they did not hire me to tell them that they were spending too much money or for me to tell them they need to go make money. I said, well, I guess I don't have much of a purpose here then. It didn't end very well, but eventually I got an email a year later saying, you were so right. I should have paid attention to my finances. I don't want to see people end up that way. You make so much money and you don't manage it, you're not going to grow wealth and you won't eventually have a successful business. And I get so many phone calls of people who are making multiple six figures, almost close to millions of dollars. They know how to bring the money in, but they barely have money in their bank account and they still manage to rack up tons of debt. It is surprising. And these are on the outside successful business owners to the rest of the world.
I think that was a big aha for me, is when I realized that that was what was going on out there. It is shocking. In some senses, I understand it now, in that their focus is they know how to generate revenue and that's their skill set.
Yes.
They unfortunately don't know how to manage it. And so in those situations, unfortunately, a small business can't have a chief financial officer.
No.
But you can have an accountant. Unfortunately, the accountant they handle the books, but unless you've got a strong accountant who's going to sit down with you and go over your numbers, which most of them don't, they just prepare them.
Exactly.
You need somebody else in there to help evaluate your numbers and show you where the issues are. And then you have conversations around it to make sure that you're not selling products or services that are losing money. And also to know where to focus your time. Where's your best opportunities? And then just to keep that focus to make sure you're on the right track.
You are so correct. There are a lot of accountants out there who only prepare you for taxes, and a lot of bookkeepers, they only prepare your financial records so that they're there. But if you don't take the time or have the patience to pay attention, you're going to have some issues. And what I strive to tell people is that you are the CFO of your business. You are the CFO, and CFOs are the most valuable people in a company. Oh my gosh, Tesla, I forget his name right now, Elon Musk. So I read like in 2015, he took an official salary of $35,000. His CFO took home $1.2 million. That's on the extreme end, but that's how important that money person is in your life. And most small businesses, especially solopreneurs that I work with, they can't afford a CFO. Most of them can barely afford an accountant or a bookkeeper. So I urge them to be the CFO in your business that you need. Even for those of you who are listening, even in your personal life, you have to be a CFO of your money because no one is going to do it. And I like to joke and say there are no magic fairies that will pay your bills for you. And if you have found one, please send them to me because I would love that person. But they don't exist, so you have to take care of it yourself.
You do. I'm an enrolled agent. I do taxes, although I hate doing them. My wife's a CPA. We do that type of thing, but my focus is more on, I don't want to do the actual accounting work. I want to do the coaching's probably not the right word, but more so the CFO job. I'll come in and help people understand where their money's going. And then it's not a matter of saying, oh, you can't spend money. It's a matter of, where do you want your money to go?
Exactly.
Is it going where you want it to go? If it's not, then let's shift it away from where you don't want to where you want.
Exactly.
And just have a solid understanding of where your money is and how it's all flowing, and making sure that it's flowing the direction that you want it to.
Exactly. I agree with you. And that's what I love to do, to work with those solopreneurs right in the beginning stages of their business to set up a system so that they can manage their money. And I tell people, and I know with your wife being a CPA, you're an enrolled agent, you know, without a shadow of a doubt, if you don't pay attention to your money now, you will spend just as much money trying to fix things later on. And fixing it costs a lot of money.
It does. And I think it's important when you first start your business, and even if it's a side business, or even if you're handling your personal finances, is to create systems that track everything that goes on. If you wanted to, I could sit down with you and I can go back, I think I could probably show you 28 years of expenses because it's all electronic. I can go down and with the pushes of buttons, I can show you I spent this much on entertainment this month. This is how it compares to the last 12 months. This is how this year compares to last year. This is how it compares to the average of the last 5 years. I can go down and figure everything out to the T, and it's all automated. It's not like I'm spending hours doing this stuff.
Yes.
I click a button on the software. It goes out to all my credit card companies, to my bank. All the transactions just flow in, and most of them it already knows. It is just a handful that I have to classify, and it doesn't, it takes me a little bit of time every month, but I always know where I stand. I know where my money went. And once a year, I'll sit down and I'll look and I'll say, did my money go where it went, where I wanted it to go? Am I comfortable where I'm spending my money? And the answer is always yes. I'm, for the most part, I'm comfortable with where I'm spending it, how I'm spending it. And if something's out of line, then I make a change.
That is the perfect thing to do with your money. And I tell a lot of my business owners, I say, create this system. And I tell them on the 1st and 15th of each month, take 1 hour between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. and just sit down and evaluate your big money picture. Just look at it. Decide, give yourself a salary. Look at your budget. Ask, what did you do with your money the month before? What do you need to do with it going forward? This system works for personal life as well. A lot of us always think that business finances and personal finances, they're a little bit different, which they are. There are some nuances with them, but for the most part, you manage them the same exact way. You have to sit down, pay attention, and make some decisions. And sometimes you may have to make some hard decisions.
Well, and that's where I think having someone to help you and to call you out, to call your, the stories we tell ourselves out and say, you know what, you said you wanted X and you keep doing Y.
Exactly.
So having someone there to help you do that, it's important. Now, this costs money, and I know especially small businesses never like to spend money on any of this stuff. But if you can actually spend time with someone who helps you set up your systems, creates everything, and teaches you the mindsets, over the course of a year, you'll spend some money. But at the end of the day, you're going to, especially as a business person, get a multiple return on that investment because you will understand your business, you'll understand your finances, and you'll have systems in place to make sure that it's all working well. Especially if you have other people touching your books. How often do we hear stories of someone else took all their money away because they didn't even bother to pay attention? And that's unfortunately a problem. Spend the time and the effort to get it down. Once you do, it flows.
You're so right. If you just take the time and invest in it, it is an investment in your business and even for your personal life. It is an investment in your personal life to sit down and get some help because What we fail to realize is that we can keep going with a bad habit for many, many, many years, and we will pay double for that bad habit versus just taking the money to invest in someone teaching us what we can do now so that we don't have to pay for it triple later. So good advice.
Absolutely. Is there anything that we haven't touched on today that we should cover?
I don't think so. I mean, we talked about personal finances. We talked about business finances. We definitely talked on the money stories. And I think I would like to leave and make sure that everybody understand to go back and really pay attention to those money stories that you're telling yourself and looking at that money mindset, because that is so crucial to everything. It's crucial to you becoming wealthy, to you running a business, and to you managing your finances the way you need to be managing them.
Absolutely. And if people would like to find you, where is the best way that they can connect with you?
I'm so simple. You can find me at budgetschool.co. And for those of you who are business owners, or if you just want to check it out, you can absolutely enroll for free. I want to give as much information out there for those who are interested, but you can go to budgetschool.co and enroll for free. And yes, Budget School is exactly what it's talking about. There are videos, worksheets, and resources to help you jumpstart your budget and start looking at your money in a completely different way. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Budget School CO. Every morning I pop on live and start answering questions for anyone who has any questions about their finances or anything with a dollar sign in front of them. My goal is to help as many people as possible that want to be helped.
Thank you for doing that. Well, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And this was a lot of fun chatting. I like talking about money, and I can do this for hours. So thank you for letting me get my money talk out for the day, because talking to my cat and dog just doesn't work the same way.
That's hilarious. It's been fun chatting about money, and hopefully more people will start having money conversations within their family. They can practice on their cat or dog if they need to.
Yes, they are willing listeners.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
I encourage you to check out Phylecia's site, budgetschool.co. Clearly, where you focus your attention is where you get results. If you don't focus on your money, you're going to have troubles. If I can help coach you in this area, please reach out. I'd love to hear your questions and any feedback you have to improve the show. Thanks for all your support. My email is rocky@richersoul. Have an abundant week. Look forward to chatting again soon.